Welcome to Policy 1.50, Child Abuse and Neglect Training. Today, our objectives are, as a 4-H volunteer, you will become familiar with OSU's Protection of Minors policy. We will define child abuse and neglect, identify the 4 main types of child maltreatment, and learn about Ohio State University's reporting requirements. As a 4-H volunteer, Ohio State University controls the program of OSU Extension and the 4-H program. And thus, as a 4-H volunteer, you must follow the Policy 1.50 activities and programs with minor participants. Under this, you as a 4-H volunteer will conduct activities and programs which parents or guardians are not expected to be responsible for the care, custody, or control of the minors. How we define this is when an adult, a 4-H volunteer, is present and has the primary responsibility for supervision of minors at any given point throughout the activity or program with those minors. At least one adult must have the care, custody, and control of the minor at all times during that activity or program. As you know, at 4-H club meetings, most times parents will drop their children off and will not stay for the meeting. So you as a 4-H volunteer will have the care, custody, and control of that child. So at least one 4-H volunteer must have that care, custody, and control of those minor children at all times during the 4-H club meeting. The Ohio State University Policy 1.50 requirements include: you have assigned standards of behavior. You signed that when you turned in your application packet. That was one of the forms that you signed. You also submitted to a criminal history fingerprint background check when you applied, and then hereafter, every 4 years, you will resubmit fingerprint background check. You will attend annual training, and that is usually done at our 4-H update. And there is accountability in regards to the policies and procedures and your accountability and responsibility for reporting witnessed or suspected child abuse and neglect. The standards of behavior form is signed annually. You did sign that with your enrollment application. It sets expectations for positive behavior, and it also prohibits things such as illegal, harassing, abusive, and bullying behaviors, intentionally placing yourself in a one-on-one situation with a minor. And we know at times that unintentionally this may happen where a child is left behind and you are alone with them, but you are not going to intentionally place yourself in that situation, and you will plan for a way to not put yourself in that situation. There are 4 types of child maltreatment that we will cover: neglect, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and physical abuse. As you can see on the chart, neglect makes up the largest percentage of child abuse cases. Neglect is defined as the failure of an adult to provide for the child's basic educational or medical needs. This includes food, shelter, clothing, being left unsupervised, not having adequate hygiene and self-care, a lack of education, or excessive days being missed at school, not getting them medical and dental treatment, and cases of abandonment. Nationally, child abuse and neglect, at least 1 in 7 children have experienced abuse and neglect in the past year. Most child abuse and neglect happens within the family, and neglect is the most common form of maltreatment. On a regional basis here in Ohio, over half of children in 16 of 23 eastern and southeastern Ohio counties live in poverty. Our region has lost more than 5,000 licensed child care spaces since 2012, and 12 of 23 counties have high rates of unemployment. All of these are factors that can lead to increased child abuse and neglect. Emotional abuse is a pattern of harmful interactions between an adult and a child, such as criticizing, belittling, and rejecting. These chronic acts interfere with their psychological and social development. Sexual abuse is when a person uses power or directly involves a child in any sexual act or involves the child in pornography or forces the child to witness a sexual act. In Ohio, the age of consent is 16, except for teachers, administrators, coaches, or anyone in a position of authority over that minor. Then it is defined as the age of 18. As a 4-H volunteer, you will have a position of authority over a minor. So thus, according to the Ohio Revised Code, the age of consent would be 18. And a person in authority may be guilty of sexual battery if they engage in a sexual act with anyone under the age of 18. Physical abuse is any physical injury inflicted other than by accidental means. We have to look at abuse versus was it truly an accident? And so we look at the severity and the nature of the injury. Where is the injury? What is the size and shape of the injury? Does the story match the injury? And is the injury consistent with the child's ability? How many injuries does the child have? And how often is that child injured? These are various instruments that can be used to inflict punishment on a child. These are things that we would look for in regards to child abuse, of marks that are left on the body. As you can see, a looped cord would make these marks on a body. Switches, coat hangers, cords could all leave these types of injuries. And obviously you can see the hand slap mark on the cheek of this child. What are other indicators of child abuse or neglect? We would look for bruises, welts, burn marks, the child's behavior. Do they appear to be in pain? Are they hungry? Their clothing, are they wearing long sleeves in the summertime to hide welts and bruises? Do they seem excessively tired? And do they have a pattern of being late to school? You may suspect child abuse or neglect if the child demonstrates signs of abuse or neglect, the child may confide in you about being abused, or you witness an incident of abuse or neglect. It is not our job to confirm or verify that abuse is happening. If you suspect, you want to act on your suspicions. I always say if you have a gut feeling that something is wrong, then it probably is wrong. The do's and don'ts. If a child would confide in you or if you would witness an act of abuse or neglect, you want to make sure you remain calm. You don't want to ask leading questions. Let the child just tell you what is happening with the person or the situation. It's not your job to investigate. You cannot promise that you won't tell because it is your duty to report abuse and neglect, and you want to take action. You also want to maintain confidentiality and not telling the things that you have witnessed or been confided in with other people. Reporting. This is required. You are required to report as a 4-H volunteer if you witness or suspect child abuse or neglect with one of your 4-H members. You would need to immediately report all incidents. You're going to make 2 calls. If you feel that the child is in imminent danger or life-threatening situation, you would want to call 911, which here in Noble County, it would go to the Noble County Sheriff's Department. Or you can call Noble County Children's Services at the number that's listed here, 740-732-2392. You're also going to make a second call to Ohio State University Police at 614-292-2121. When you make that call, you're going to indicate that you are a 4-H volunteer and that you're calling per policy 1.50. What this does is it activates the crisis assessment and response team at Ohio State University, and it ensures that action is being taken by the Noble County Children's Services and that this child will not fall through the cracks. You're required to report within 1 business day. We're going to file a report, so you will meet with one of the county extension professionals, myself or Sammy Schott, and you will complete the child abuse, sexual abuse and neglect incident report. And we will do that form together and help you submit that form. What this does is create that paper trail with Ohio State University police, and that makes sure that they're following up on the incident that has been reported to our local authorities. You can report in person Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Noble County Children's Services, which is located on Marietta Road. You can contact them by phone at 740-732-2392. After hours and on the holidays, you could call the Sheriff's Department directly or call in an emergency 911. When you call the Sheriff's Department, they will contact Noble County Children's Services because there is always somebody on call from Children's Services. In 4-H, we always want to offer a positive, welcoming, and safe environment for our 4-H participants. We also want to protect ourselves. You want to make sure that you actively avoid being alone with a child. Always stay within view of other people, especially when you're with children. Never pat, brush, or touch a child anywhere in their private area. This is basically any area that would be covered by a bathing suit. You don't want to physically punish a child. We never want to allow a child to be in our private staff areas, personal vehicles. We don't discuss our romantic life with the child. And if you want to report any suspicious, inappropriate, or uncomfortable activity immediately to the authorities. You need to maintain and respect the privacy of youth, like if they're going to the bathroom, changing clothes, those kind of things. When you have to have physical contact to demonstrate a skill or technique, first ask for permission from the child. And this may be if you're teaching them something such as sewing or a shooting sports project and you have to touch their arm or lean against them to help steady them. You would first want to ask the child permission to touch them. Ask, can I touch you on your arm? Can I touch you on your shoulder so that I can show you how to do this? Get their permission first. We want to communicate safety rules, especially for our clubs and where our club meeting places. We also want to provide written guidelines and rules of what our expectations for behavior are within our club meetings and the places that we're meeting. And then we also always want to make sure that we're working in open spaces. If you ever have any questions in regards to Policy 1.50 or any of the other things within 4-H that you would have questions about, you can contact me either by email, my direct office phone number, and I've also included my cell phone number because I do know that there are club meetings that happen in the evenings and on the weekends. Thank you and hope you have a good understanding of Policy 1.50.